somebody disputes the charges, usually their response on their end is, this guy is an idiot and I don't like his services, or he didn't deliver what he asked me to. When in reality, you have all the ammo in your tank and you just deliver a letter, a contract they sign, and you point to the terms of use and you deliver that to your merchant. They're just like, wow, this guy has his stuff together. And the odds are now in your favor. It's like the same thing for me going to court. When I walk into court, I want to be prepared for any angle of argument, no matter what angle it comes from. Like I just prepared for that, right? So the same thing here is like, if you have that foundation set up from the very beginning going forward, no matter who disputes, you have the ammo to support your case.
Hi, everyone, and welcome to another episode of the HighLevel Spotlight Sessions, where we showcase awesome marketers doing awesome marketing. Today, I'm joined once again by Chris Lyle of LawHustle. Chris, thank you so much for coming back on the show.
Thanks for having me. I appreciate it.
Chris is, if you haven't seen the first interview, former lawyer turned SaaSpreneur. He's been
still practicing.
Sure. But we know him as a SaaSpreneur now. So Chris has been building Go LawHustle, his white label of HighLevel, for a few years now, done very well with that. And now you're like merging the two worlds into one even more, I guess, with your latest ventures. Chris, talk to me about what you've been up to and where this has come from.
Yeah, so I mean, over the course of the last 3 years of kind of building LawHustle is obviously I'm a practicing attorney, so I kind of dig into things deeper than probably most people do in regards to protecting yourself and making sure your brand integrity is intact. So in the course of filing trademarks for LawHustle and all sort of stuff, is you really dive into all the stuff you need in place to protect your business for the long-term growth. So I realized that something's just missing in the community. There's nobody that, most people are afraid to go talk to an attorney because they think they're going to have to pay a big bill or something like that. But I'm in the community. I'm more than happy to, point people in the right direction because I've been in everybody's shoes here. So these new projects that I'm kind of rolling out now are to give everybody in the GHL community more resources.
Mm-hmm. And I feel like you've seen quite a few common concerns, questions pop up through the community. It seems like there's a few trends that you kind of built answers for. I think the first one I've seen a lot of talk around is chargebacks. Talk to me about chargebacks and how you've been helping people legally kind of fight that fight.
Well, I hear the comment about chargebacks all the time in the group, and how do I prevent chargebacks and all that stuff. And you really got to take this with a grain of salt and kind of take 10 steps back and think about all the things you need in place to set yourself up so you don't. But when those things happen, you have the ammo and the evidence to support your case. So you'd have the chargeback obviously not go through, obviously, right? Because it all comes out of that. You can't go and talk to somebody on the phone and write on a napkin what your agreement is, right? You really have to think about what it is you're providing to that end user and how you're delivering it and how it's fulfilled, right? And it's got to be clearly documented in some sort of documentation so you can prevent these things. So things you're going to need right out of the gate, it should be obvious, right? Terms of service, right? Everybody who logs into your GHL white label account or GHL itself has to have a terms of service, right? Your terms of service should have all the detail in there regarding when acceptance happens, what the recurring charges are, what recurring charges happen, or what you're subscribing to, right? So by them logging in, they inherently agree to all this stuff, right? So you have a little more ammo because you can use your terms of service and all the documentation within that document to help fight a chargeback, because subscriptions are a little bit harder to fight with chargebacks. I don't know if you notice this, but if you're just paying for a service or a product and you ever get delivered, it's hard to fight it. But if you subscribe to a subscription-based model, it's a lot harder to lose a chargeback dispute, I guess you would say. You have better resources because you have your terms of use, which they inherently agree to when they come into your system. So that's one thing. Your terms of service have to kind of lay out all this for you because they have to agree to it. And you also have to have a proper procedure in place. You can't just sell something, have somebody come in the system and not have a high and tight, terms of service, because you may not have the protection that you want if a chargeback occurs, right? Now, don't get me wrong, this is not going to prevent chargebacks.
Right.
Everybody's going to do a chargeback. It happens. But if you have all the things in place before you get to that point, you're in a better position, right? And then the last thing is, I'll just tell you exactly what I do. So our terms of service is great for what we're trying to accomplish here with LawHustle. I'm not saying go copy our terms of service because it's not going to be specific to your business. Every terms of service is different comparing what business you are and what you're delivering. But our procedure for us, so we have it fully dialed in, is they purchase, we send them an agreement, which is an order agreement, which has it looks like an invoice with a little bit extra terms on the bottom about what they're actually ordering, the subscription amount, whatever are the details you need on that sheet. But also there's a paragraph on that order agreement that has, by paying for this or submitting or signing this agreement, you agreeing to the terms of use, right? Which are specified here, and you link out to that URL, right? So that's step one. So you sold them, that's one. They signed your order agreement, and then boom, they logged in, which is number 3, and they inherently agree to it twice now by that process. So now if you get a chargeback and they say, somebody's disputing your transaction, you have their order agreement to back you up. You have the terms of use to back you up, and you can point them to a specific part in the terms of use. You can fight that. And also, if you just write a letter saying these are the facts of what happened, here's the agreement they signed, it specifies exactly what they're subscribing to, here's our terms of use, paragraph 56B1 says blah, 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 blah. And you submit all that to your merchant who's disputing the transaction, you are in a much better position. And I'm gonna be frank with you. When somebody disputes the charges, usually their response on their end is, this guy is an idiot and I don't like his services, or he didn't deliver what he asked me to. When in reality, you have all the ammo in your tank, and you just deliver a letter, a contract they signed, and you point to the terms of use, and you deliver that to your merchant. They're just like, wow, this guy has his stuff together. And the odds are now in your favor. It's like the same thing for me going to court. When I walk into court, I want to be prepared for any angle of argument, no matter what angle it comes from. I just prepared for that, right? So the same thing here is if you have that foundation set up from the very beginning going forward, no matter who disputes, you have the ammo to support your case. I'm not saying you're going to win, because it's really dependent on the situation, but you're in a much better position. So
yeah, that makes a ton of sense. And I could see exactly what you said. There, the processor, the merchant on the other end is, I'm sure when they're placed with those two things, it's a easy decision, right? It's like, okay, yeah, this guy's upset clearly, but that's about it. And then over here, we have a legitimate software company with terms and service and an agreement that was signed and all this kind of stuff. I mean, that to me, that seems like you're drastically increasing your odds. So what else here? I know that you helped a lot of folks around IP. So intellectual property, protecting that in the world of SaaS. Talk to me about that. Why is that an issue?
This is a big thing. And I think a lot of people, I think it comes from the whole, I'm not going to quote anybody, the whole hacking, world that everybody's come from, I guess you would say. But a lot of people are afraid of people coming into their system and taking their system out, or taking a snapshot, reselling it or repurposing it for themselves. And they really want to protect their snapshots and their business, right? But at the end of the day, the software is technically GHL's, right? It's the IP is technically with them as it relates to features, but everything that you build on top of it, like your sequences, your workflows, maybe you have dialogue flow integrated into it. Maybe you have some other custom stuff that does some other API calls and posts. These are the things that make you above and beyond what you currently offering with GHL just offers, right? That is your intellectual property. You have to protect that piece of the puzzle, right? And I've seen time and time again where people just let people other vendors or whoever else into their system, and they don't have the correct mechanisms in place to protect themselves to have something like that. So have a recourse if something like that happens, if that makes any sense, right? So number one, when your clients come in the system, when they sign up, right, they're agreeing to the terms of use. In your terms of use, they're going to have a paragraph in there about your intellectual property. There should be a paragraph in your terms of use about intellectual property and who owns the rights to that intellectual property. And it should be you, because you built the system, period. So people shouldn't be taking sequences out. People shouldn't be taking your copy out, period. That should be one of the things that should be in your terms of use, and it should be clear as day. Also, they also have to agree to not, doing illegal activity and stuff like that in terms of use. Anyways, so the second thing of this is now there's another piece of the puzzle, like where you're an agency owner or you're a SaaS agency owner, and you're letting people in your system to either do work for you, like fulfill on something, do white label ad services, or whatever it is. I couldn't even tell you how many people I've talked to that don't have independent contractor agreements set up in place with their vendors, or they're not having them sign non-disclosure agreements. And let me tell you why you should have everybody who logs in your system who's a vendor for you sign those two things. One is you're clearly going to lay out the terms of what they're providing for you in your independent contractor agreement, and also talk about your whole intellectual property. And then the NDA is making sure that they don't disclose any of the stuff they learn in your system. And the same thing goes backwards, right? You're not disclosing anything about your vendor and his ad techniques or whatever he's doing fulfillment for you, right? So everybody who comes to your system, I don't care if it's a VA in the Philippines, I don't care if it's somebody that's next door to you, everybody should sign an NDA, and everybody should have independent contract agreement if they're coming in your system. Those two things alone protect you. So if somebody decides to take all your stuff and walk away with it, you have legal recourses to go after them to remedy the situation, if that makes any sense. So, and I gotta be honest with you, I've never even heard anybody in the group talk about a non-disclosure agreement. Who knows if people actually even do it? So, but I come from the patent world, so like these things are very like important, like not disclosing things and like keeping it secret until you're ready to take it to market, right? So that's the similar concept.
And so, I mean, I think the common trend here comes back to documentation, right?
Oh, yeah.
And so this is where I feel like a lot of us, myself included, just like cringe inside, like, oh gosh, you're kidding me. Like now I'm going to have to go try to figure out 10 pages of legal document, and then I'm Googling like create a, terms and use generator. And, I'm always kind of laugh at myself when I export one of those, like, this is probably worthless, I'm sure. So what you've done is super smart, in my opinion. You have kind of done that legwork. You've created two new entities, and one of them is all around these documents that as SaaSpreneurs, we should all have in place, right?
Yeah, exactly.
And so this is like a template library, or walk me through this.
It's actually, it's called the SaaS Contract Shop. It's SaaScontractshop.com, and it's pretty much a done do-it-yourself membership area, right? Where I give you the 6 key documents that I think are the most important that anybody should have right out of the gate, even before you get client number 1, right? So you should have all these things in place. Now, specifically, it's a membership area that has all the agreements that you can copy over at any moment in time. It also has an hour-long training that I actually did for an event for Matt DeCendo at one of his events about what you need in your SaaS compliance kit. I did an entire hour training at a live event specifically just on terms of use, cookie policies, and privacy policies. I talked about those 3 things as the most 3 important things you need for your SaaS part of your business. Now, your agency part of your business is also just as important, right? Anything that's outside of your terms of use or outside of your SaaS business, you got to have other things in place. Like you got to have a master service agreement, right? If you're doing lead generation services for people, you're doing SEO services, you're doing web development services for people, like you had to have a master service agreement plus a statement of work that really defines what it is that you are delivering for that client outside the software. Like, what is that service you're doing, right? Those things should be in place altogether. Most people have people sign contracts, but nobody's actually really thought about where they get these from. So they may just like go to a bank somewhere, or they may search one and try to find one on wherever they're finding it, and just copy it and make it their own. These are specifically geared to be templates for you, where you can come in, you can follow my notes, my videos, and make it your own for your own business, okay? Based on how your payment structure is and all that stuff. Another thing is that your independent contract agreements. We talked about this. These are things you should just have like in your back pocket all the time. Like you talk to somebody and you say, hey, I need you to come and look at this website. Can you fix it? Independent contract agreement, NDA, like right out of the gate, you just send it to them. So independent contract agreements, another one's in there, the template is so you can fill it out and have it all ready to go for any of your vendors. And also a non-disclosure agreement. Your non-disclosure agreement should be like the one you should be handing out like candy. Anybody who comes to your system, you should be literally getting them an NDA. That's just my personal opinion, because I'm all about protecting, what's yours. Like you came up with this stellar idea to make a niche specific for the dental industry, for the legal industry, for the sign industry, or whatever it is. You spent the time and effort dive into the details and figure it out. The last thing you want to do is not protect yourself and allow somebody to take it out of your system, or whatever the situation happens to be, right? Those are the 6 important most documents. They're just blatantly there for you in the SaaS Contract Shop. They're specifically geared towards GHL. So like the terms of use is specifically geared towards GHL. So like it has stuff in there about Mailgun, it has stuff in there about Twilio, it has stuff in there about like newsletters. So like a lot of the stuff is already pre-built for you, and I've already defined it all in those templates for you. And you just literally just download them, look over the video, go through the template, and then boom, you have a terms of use that's specific to you and your business because you made it your own.
That's awesome. And I'm assuming you're going to continually add and modify what's in there, right? Like when we switch to the ISV model, I'd imagine that changes what's going to be in there about Twilio and things like that. So in my mind, to have somebody like you at the helm of that makes me feel a lot more comfortable for sure as a SaaSpreneur. And I think that kind of leads into your second new venture, which I think is awesome, called Kick SaaS Legal. So what is this one about, and how does it pair with the template library?
So my initial idea was to like make a library because I found that nobody had any of these documents in place, and it would be best just to like provide them to them, like, written by an attorney, right? And they can just make them their own, they're templated, right? But then I really thought about this, and I'm just like, half of these people probably going to need a little more than that in regards to like contract review and those other stuff. So I am opening up a new leg of my law firm. I'm calling it Kick SaaS Legal. And essentially what I'm doing is I'm offering consulting, contract services, plus any trademark related stuff for IP, for brand integrity stuff, right? So I can't emphasize enough how important all those aspects are of your business. Making sure you're on the right path by getting the consultation you need, making sure you have the correct agreements in place, either from the SaaS Contract Shop or something custom that you need to be done by an attorney, or a trademark, which is trademarking your brand, your marketing agency, maybe the name of your SaaS itself, and make sure you're on the right track. So when you get to that mid-stage milestone in your business, or even that end stage, which may be an exit, you have everything ready in place, and like you're just ready to like exit. And you can do that for your business because you had all the proper stuff to get you to that point without exposing yourself legally. So the Kick SaaS legal thing is actually pretty cool. So what I'm doing is essentially the first thing is a call with me, and like we're a 2-hour call with me, 100% business intensive, legal intensive, where I dive into everything from the structure of your business, what you're currently doing, where you're at now, where you want to be, how we're going to get there. And then I make a blueprint for you, exactly all the things you need to put in place before you either launch, or to put in place to make sure you're in the right trajectory. So that's like step number 1. But then after that, obviously there's trademarks, contracts, also the stuff that I can do for people as well. And I don't know if there's very many people in the group, but I don't see very many people have trademarks on their white label SaaS. I do. I don't know about everybody else, but I have a trademark on LawHustle. So, and it's specifically for the reason that I want to make sure that I stronghold the market, and I'm like the known name. When somebody hears the word LawHustle, they know exactly what it is and what it serves.
So does Kick SaaS Legal become like my CLO on demand, like my chief legal officer that I don't have to pay full time?
Yeah, I'm still defining exactly 100% what it is, but first thing first is the business intensive, right? Because let's put it straight. If you went to go find an attorney, and you went to an attorney and you said, hey, I need to file a trademark, attorney's going to be like, okay, what do you want to file a trademark for? You just give them a name, like whatever the name of what it is, right? There's no other, like, there may be some connecting dots of like how it's all structured and how you want to put it together, but I want the entire picture, right? You want somebody who knows the entire picture, your business, how it's set up, everything that's going on in the middle, and obviously the stuff you want to trademark so we can get the full advantage of it, right? So first thing first is like, I need to see the whole picture, right? And then after we move into that, we have an ongoing, services we can do for you, right? And I'm haven't 100% defined it, but it's going to be a combination of a very low priced monthly subscription where you get a certain number of things from me on a monthly basis, and then also additional legal services, which are obviously not a part of the monthly stuff. But yeah, it would be technically like somebody you can talk to on hand that's in your community you can trust, and will get you the information you need to be able to get your business on the right track.
And are you guys helping folks with, like you mentioned, hey, you should have NDAs in your back pocket, like anybody coming to your system. My mind immediately went to like, oh crap, how am I going to operationalize that? Okay, I'm going to need some workflows attached to like Panda Docs so that I don't have to like go through this every time and have it be this big, terrible thing that I hate doing. I'm assuming you guys have all that up and running, right? Like,
Oh yeah.
you know, out and back through webhooks and Zapier to keep the contracts moving and all that.
And actually, I didn't mention that, but that's actually in the membership area for the SaaS Contract Shop. If you buy the bundle, I think that's in as one of the things you can. It tells you how we automate our contracts pretty much.
That's
So,
sweet.
and then also, if you need to go above and beyond, I can even help you with that as well. I mean, like we're pretty robust here. It's like it's like filling out a quick form and then adding a tag, and then the contract goes out, and then we pull back the URL, and also we do a lot of things in our system to make sure that we can get clients to easily sign. We do the same thing for our agency as well. Same thing.
See, then it becomes not a big deal at all. You're basically just adding a contact, applying a tag, and then boom, like the contracts are going to unfold themselves, and you're going to keep reminding them that, hey, you need to sign that NDA before we can do anything, before I can pay you. So yeah, that's awesome. I think that's really cool. That's going to help a lot of people. I mean, Chris, nobody wants to get caught on the wrong end of the law here. And I know that a lot of times we get so excited about what HighLevel enables you to do, what you can build, how easy it is to go start making money. But yeah, I mean, once you start seeing folks, and we're seeing, thousands of them at this point, making tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands of dollars a month off their white label, you probably want to protect yourself a little bit here. And, like you said, I haven't seen a lot of stuff going on in the footers of a lot of the white labels myself. So I think there's definitely going to be some, hopefully some light bulbs that get lit about, hey, we do need to get a little bit serious about this kind of stuff. I mean, what are the worst case scenarios? Like, talk to me about what you've seen as far as like how bad it could be.
I mean, I work in the IP world, so like it could get really bad, but you got to understand it's not like, people are out there frivolously, taking action on people because of whatever issue, right? One of the biggest thing right now is privacy, right? Everybody knows that privacy happens to be a very big thing. Apple's all about it. All these industries are all about this privacy stuff. So if one thing you should like literally make sure that is like dialed in is your privacy policy, right? That's one thing that you should have dialed in, because that's the one place where you can see yourself exposed, and then data is breached and also stuff that it could be a big problem, right? So that's probably one of the biggest areas. But it's my analogy is like people won't seek out a lawyer until it's too late.
Yeah, I was just gonna say,
why not put the things in place before you even have to talk to a lawyer? And that's essentially what I'm trying to do here is like, here's all the agreements you need. If you want to talk to me for 2 hours and really dive into this, and I'll tell you what you need, like these are the two things you need before you ever go out into the world and do like bigger and better things for stuff, right? So it's like driving a car down the freeway when you're driving, right? Do you want to have your window all the way down? You want to have it half up, or you want to have it all the way closed, right? Don't get me wrong. There's no contract in the world that's 100% sound. Like there's some attorney or some litigator is going to find a flaw in it. Don't get me wrong. It's inevitable, right? But do you want to have your window partially down, or do you want to have it all the way down getting soaking wet? This is where you gotta get yourself in the position where you're protecting yourself as much as possible to reduce your risk of exposure to these things that could happen on the back end.
Awesome. Well, kicksasslegal.com is the URL for the second entity that we just talked about, and the first is SaaScontractshop.com. Chris, I think this is awesome. I think you're going to help a ton of folks in the community. The websites themselves look fantastic. And when you guys check out the sites, I think it'll all make sense. It's like, the cover your SaaS contract bundle.
And also, I didn't mention right now, but right now I have a 25% coupon applied to anybody who buys a bundle right now until I take it off. So if you want the bundle of all 6 of those agreements we just talked about, they're all in there. They're 25% off. So have at it.
Awesome. Well, thanks so much for coming back on the show, and congrats on these new endeavors.
Yeah, I appreciate it. I'm actually excited about it. I'm actually nervous and excited about it all at the same time because it's like a new thing for me that it probably just needs to be done. So we'll see.
I mean, it's definitely, look, I haven't heard anybody in the community talking about this stuff. You see people asking questions and just getting no answers, just a bunch of like what people think is probably true. And, I always kind of cringe when I see those conversations because I'm like, man, if you're not a lawyer, why are you even commenting here? You could really be getting somebody in.
Usually my response to all those messages are just like, make sure your terms of use is really good.
There you go. I mean, that's really what it all comes down to. And so the fact that you've done the legwork to kind of flesh out what should be in these things related to HighLevel, because we all are using the core platform at the bottom of the stack, makes a ton of sense. So thank you, Chris, for coming on. Thank you guys for watching. We will see you in the next one.